Hi, everyone. Today I have my husband with me. Oh, wait, welcome to the Turtle Wins the Race Home Based Business Podcast. I have to say that at the beginning of everything
Right, we start
so they
over.
know where they are. No, I'm not starting
Oh,
over. I'm
okay.
just going to keep going.
All right.
And I have my husband with me. He's not this short. Wait, no,
I'm really this short.
you're supposed, it's usually like this, but I have him sitting on a chair. But the reason that I wanted to talk to you, I have some things to say. No, I just,
Go on record.
I want to go on the record. Now, my husband he was a music major in college, and you play trombone,
Mhm.
and he's played with bands, you know,
All sorts of popular bands, jazz bands, big bands,
small
pit
bands.
orchestras, small jazz groups,
Yeah.
whatever.
So anyway, but he actually gets paid for it. Okay. So, not all the time. Sometimes
Yeah.
he just plays for fun. But we were talking about selling out. And it's interesting because I come from it from the artist perspective of, oh, you're a sellout. And that's a really bad thing for a lot of artists, like visual artists. But Bob was like, what the hell? Why, but you said that people call musicians sellouts, but
Well,
it's kind of a different, it was an interesting difference in perspective.
back in the day, when you're going to school and you're, really trying to learn how to play and learn how to play jazz, and you don't have a gig yourself, it's easy to say, some musician is selling out because he put out a popular crossover record or something.
Mhm.
For example, subject came up of great jazz guitarist George Benson.
Well, everybody knows George. You should know George Benson if you don't know. Even I know George
Even
Benson.
though
Playing.
George
Yeah,
Benson,
yeah,
George Benson was it still is actually a really really fine guitar player, jazz guitarist.
right.
Starting in the '60s, played with everybody: Freddie Hubbard, you know, uh, people such as Herbie Hancock, etc. And one of the very top handful of guitarists that there were. Now, in the late '70s, he put out a album with the a title cut called "Breezin'." I don't know if you remember this
Yeah. See,
song.
I think of George. Didn't he did producing though too? Right. He was a
Well,
producer. He's a
eventually, I guess, yeah,
producer. Yeah.
got
Because
a,
when I think George Benson, I think of disco for some reason.
well, what was the one? "Give Me the Night." Is that what it's called?
Give me the night.
"Give Me the
Yes.
Night." That's George Benson, and George
Yeah.
Benson. No one really knew he was a singer. At least we didn't. And George Benson came out. He was singing. He was playing. Like say we call it a crossover, light jazz, disco, pop music. And I remember back in the day, a lot of people at school, George Benson selling out. Instead of, hey, the guy wants to make a little money. What's wrong with
Yeah.
that?
What's
He's
wrong
got a
with
family to
that?
feed, we assume. So, and the thing was, he the music was actually very well produced, very good music for what it is, and I think that's if you probably had to put a defining line on it. If somebody's just making quote something that's well, I hate to say they use crap, but if
No,
somebody's
you can
making
say
crap just
crap.
to get some money, well, that's kind of selling out. But
Yeah.
it's the
Yeah.
quality, and the thing was, the music quality is really good.
Yeah. It was.
And like
Yeah.
for example, another one was some other folks who've done a lot of crossover things. Glenn Campbell.
Glenn Campbell is awesome.
Glenn Campbell. It started out as a studio musician, backup guy, and
Yes.
then
That's a really good example.
he stepped out in front and started writing songs. Well, he was always writing songs, but
Yeah.
started performing the songs and singing. Great voice, great presence, very, the whole package.
My mother loved Glenn
And
Campbell. She thought he was very
our
handsome.
daughter loves him too.
I love him
Yeah, we
too.
all like him.
Yeah.
And so that wasn't a case of really selling out, but that's just an example of here's a musician who, he was the consummate studio instrumental professional,
Hmm.
background singer, and said, okay, well, let's, he went ahead
Yeah.
went out on his own like that.
And you could kind of compare that to someone who's a fine artist. So they've been doing fine art, blah, blah, blah.
Hmm.
And then they decide to sell prints of their paintings, right? And I know that there are people in my group who do that, and that's their business. And I don't know if I think I'm thinking of one person, and you know who you are, who actually has a studio, like a gallery, and her customers are very specific. It's a very specific type of customer, and they would be the people who would say that George Benson was selling out. Okay, and I know that you know who you are, and I know we talked about this before, and you agree with me that you have to handle these people differently because they are the ones that would say if they know that you're doing prints of it, you're selling out. How dare you try to make money off of that? But the whole point of being an artist isn't just to make art that nobody is going to see or appreciate or want. And if you can make money at it, there's nothing
Hmm.
wrong with that, you know?
Hmm.
And I just, every time we start talking about selling out, it's interesting because I think of Henry Rollins,
Hmm.
who is a very interesting yet strange guy. Um, but his story was very interesting. I didn't know that he wasn't really a musician to begin with, but I was watching something with him when he was older, just like a few years ago. And if you guys don't know who Henry Rollins is, you have to look him up. But he has a long history with punk bands and that kind of stuff. And he was doing, but he does spoken word stuff, and he's been
Hmm.
on TV shows, and he seems to be really interested in history. He's a really interesting guy, but he was being interviewed by somebody, and they were in a restaurant looking or talking about something, and there are these two sniggering teenagers over at a table nearby, and he heard one of them call him a sellout. Yeah. I'm
So
like,
you don't call Henry Rollins much of anything.
don't call Henry Rollins
Bill,
anything.
Bill.
He will. No. So anyway, yeah, but he basically walked over to the table and said, "Did I hear you say I'm a sellout? And let me give you a little lesson." And he gave them a little lecture about making money from your art
Uh-huh.
and supporting yourself. And it's not selling out. It's actually just earning money doing something that you like
Hmm.
and that you're good at. And what's wrong with that? You know.
Here's the thought. We'll bring up one of the great graphic artists of the
We were
20th
talking about
century.
this before, yeah.
For example, well, Picasso, right? Went to the Picasso exhibit in Richmond. I found about a third of it compelling.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
know, a third of it was, you know, um,
Picasso was a very angry man,
yeah, a third of it was
apparently.
was really
Just,
angry, and a third of it I thought just wasn't very good.
yeah.
But the third of it that was really good was great, obviously.
Mhm.
And you hear the stories of Picasso sitting there on a napkin,
Yeah.
drawing a little thing, signing Picasso, and
Here's $1,000
yeah,
for
it's like
me.
so that to me that's the difference. Selling out is something just not even
Yeah.
an effort.
But see, I
Yeah.
see
Oh, I got a
that,
Picasso. Makes the people happy. So that's kind of where
but
yeah.
you earned that because of your previous work.
Yeah. No,
So
to me that's kind of getting in the gray area there.
yeah,
But
yeah,
but
I can see
for
that. I see that. Yeah.
Picasso's not one of my favorites, but like I say, a lot of it is great.
Hmm.
Some of it is like you're saying angry,
Ew.
and some of it is just hey, just cranking it out to well,
He was angry. He was
yeah.
very angry.
Now, George
Yeah.
Benson. So if you maybe if you're not a jazz fan, you wouldn't do this, but if you go back and listen to some of the George Benson jazz records from the late '60s, early '70s, and then go listen to his other stuff, and you can hear that the quality of the music in the new stuff is very well produced. It's it's good, and if you're not such a purist, on the jazz, if you give it a chance, then I think you'll find it's good music.
I just thought of something else that's a sellout that you're really going to like talking about. It's this live golf thing. And this is not art. I had to listen to him. I don't play golf. I had to listen to him talk about this live golf thing where the PGA is like, we're not gonna sell out to the Saudis, blah, blah, blah. And then all these players went to this new league because they're paying them millions of dollars.
Yeah, I think it
And
was probably about 5 or 6 of the top 20 players.
okay, so they went
I mean,
over.
Phil Mickelson, one of the 3 or 4 biggest names in
Yeah.
golf. Supposedly, they're paying him some astronaut to do a 2 or 3 year thing where you have to go and play all the terms. Some like $250 million, that
That's
kind of thing.
insane. But
Yeah.
you know what? They did it and they're earning their money. I don't know whether that's a justified amount or not, in my opinion, but they're
Um,
being paid for it. So whatever. But in the meantime, all the other PGA players are like, you're selling out. I can't believe it. And that's all they were talking about. Like on the Golf Channel, that's all they're all bitching about it. And I can't believe they're doing this. And the PGA saying, we're not going to
they're
support this.
towing the company line,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and they're trying to browbeat them and threaten to,
Oh,
cut them off
we're
forever.
gonna
And
cancel you and you'll never play golf again. And it and then all of a sudden, was it about a month ago?
there was a big lawsuit between them and the Saudis, or the Saudi Sports Fund, whatever it
Yeah.
is, that's run by, actually headed by one of the members of the, I think, royal family.
Uh-huh.
And they had, apparently the commissioner of the PGA and the head of one of the people in the Saudi had gotten together and come to some agreement that they would, the word was merge,
Yeah. Hmm.
and shocked so many of the players who had sided with the PGA, including, who was probably Rory McIlroy from Ireland, is probably the top
Yeah.
player at this point, and certainly probably one of the most popular players. And he went to the mat for the PGA. Then all of a sudden, the PGA just turns and goes the other way, and he's left there kind of holding the bag
Well, yeah,
with
because
this. It's just
it's
terrible. It's a terrible look for the PGA.
that is selling out.
Yeah.
The PGA sold out. That is 100% selling out, because that's saying, I will never do this. I won't do it. And then you suddenly like have enough money shoved in your pocket and now you're all of a sudden doing it. That's selling out. Okay. But supporting yourself, making
Yeah.
money, making art is not selling out. That's just called making a living.
Yeah.
Right.
And, as you said, George Benson, he moved from just playing straight ahead jazz, and probably even a great person like that really doesn't make a lot of money,
Yeah, that's
to
true. Yeah.
other things, producing,
Yeah.
this is, and about the time when videos started coming in.
Yes.
There's the
Yes.
videos, and then there's the disco and the whole thing, and the
If you guys,
producing.
if you guys haven't seen Give Me the Night, there's a lot of roller disco in it. So, because we were talking about this before, and I went and looked. I was like, why do I think of George Benson being disco? And because there at one point when we were first married, Bob is 8 years older than I am, so it's just enough of an age gap
Mhm.
that we have different kind of cultural references. And at one point, for his birthday, I said, "What do you want for your birthday?" He's like, "I think I'd like Kool and the Gang's Greatest Hits." And I'm thinking, okay, I'm down with that, but why do you want ladies' night? And he's like, no, like Jungle Boogie. And I'm
Jungle
like,
Boogie and
what is,
Hollywood Swinging.
and I'm like, what is Jungle Boogie? Because I hadn't heard that. And I'm thinking Kool and the Gang, it's ladies' night, right? And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm good with that. But I went and got him Jungle Boogie instead. And that it's a different, but
Different thing.
different thing. But people do change and they start offering different stuff. And yeah, but I think of George Benson as disco and the producing side of it, because I had no idea he was a jazz guitarist at
Oh
all.
yeah.
Yeah, I had no idea.
But the thing is, he's still playing in those records. It's
Yeah,
still,
yeah,
the great quality of the playing and musicianship, and
yeah,
the music itself still comes through.
yeah.
It's a different venue. It's a different presentation of it. It's a
Yes,
different part of his career,
right.
where he's doing many other things. And why not turn the clock back before then about 30 years?
Hmm.
Uh, Fairly well-known jazz pianist named Nat Cole all of a sudden started singing.
I did not know that.
Oh, he played with all sorts of people.
I thought he was just a singer to begin with.
No, he was known as a pianist, and he was
Oh,
a
I didn't
fine
know that.
pianist. And then he started singing, and somehow it
Well, you can market
caught
that,
on.
can't you? You can
Yeah,
market
yeah,
the singers. Yeah,
yeah. So
you can
and
package
he
that.
turned out to be
Yeah.
one of the greatest singers. Nothing wrong with bringing all that great popular music.
No.
And he didn't, a lot on his recordings. I don't think he did a whole lot of playing. If you listen to a lot of those popular recordings, he turned into the singer.
Mhm.
But I have some great recordings of him.
I wanted to, I think that artists need to think more like musicians.
Yeah.
Not about the accusing other musicians of selling out part, but just the fact that musicians kind of go into music thinking, I'm going to earn money with this. And a lot of artists think that you can't earn money with it without selling out.
Mhm.
And it's a weird kind of different way of looking at it. But I know a lot of artists who are visual artists kind of have that perception that if I make money with my art, I'm selling out just by virtue of the fact that you're making money with it. And I told him that, and he's like, well, then how do you eat? How do you buy food? Right.
The other
Yeah.
thing I wanted to mention was I was in Pittsburgh visiting our daughter, and we
Yeah.
went to the Warhol Museum, and it was really very interesting. I didn't realize Andy Warhol was from Pittsburgh, and he made the move, went to New York, and became a very very successful commercial. I'd say commercial, like advertising artist. Things like fashion, things that went in the newspaper, and also designing uh, fancy retail store windows. That was
Oh.
another thing he did.
Oh.
And they said something like 1958 or 59, after he'd been there for half a dozen years, he was making that 1959 money $65,000 a year, which would be like $500,000 or more now. And so he was making his money in commercial art,
Hmm.
in the literal sense of the commercial art, before he
Before he
started
became an
doing
artist.
artist,
Yeah.
pushing this commercial stuff. But we were talking about how he was very very good at promoting himself, selling that as art.
Mm.
And I mean, a giant soup can on the wall. I mean, who knows? But it seems to work, for what it is.
Yeah. See that this is
But the portraits, the portraits are rather.
so it's like, are you an artist? Or are you a marketer? Is there a combination of that? And does that make you a sellout? No, it makes you smart, right?
Yeah, right, right.
It makes you smart. And but people seem to have different standards. So I think that visual artists can probably learn a lot from the musician world where they actually go into it saying, I'm going to make a living at this. And you take gigs and you teach lessons and you,
Yeah,
you know,
music. It's I think the community musicians. A lot of times, many community musicians are very very supportive of each other.
like when we got married, we didn't have a wedding band. We just said to all of his friends, bring your horns. And
They
they all
they
knew
all
each
play. They all
other.
played in combinations of bands for decades. So
Yeah.
we had enough people of all instruments
Yeah, and they just kind of
to
rotated
cover.
in and out
Yeah,
for the reception. It was like a big jam session, but it was, and I had people tell me that was the best wedding band I've ever heard. And I was like, it's because it wasn't a band. It was basically like every R&B band in Boston
hmm
put together for our wedding reception in different
yeah.
forms,
It was pretty good. I have a great recording of Nat King Cole and the great tenor saxophonist Lester Young playing Gershwin's "The Man I Love."
And I don't need to listen to that. So
Everybody needs to listen to that.
thank you. That's all. I dragged him out. He was doing his little fantasy football draft. So you can
Go
go back and do that now.
go George Benson.
Go George Benson. Okay. I'll talk to you guys later.
Thank
Bye.
you.